Hey there, my fellow history nerds. Welcome back to WTF History, where we dig into the wildest, most jaw-dropping stories from the past that'll make you question everything you thought you knew. Today, we're diving into the bizarre, grotesque, and downright unbelievable tale of Louis XIV, the Sun King of France. This guy wasn't just a king. He was a living legend. A man who seemed to radiate divine perfection. But trust me, by the end of this story, you'll see how this golden god turned into a rotting, stinking nightmare that shocked even his own court. Grab a snack, settle in, and let's step into the glittering world of Versailles, where it all began. Picture yourself in 1661, standing in the heart of the most dazzling palace on earth, Versailles. The air's thick with the scent of roses, the walls shimmer with gold, and 1,000 nobles are whispering, waiting for him. Louis XIV, just 23 years old, descend a marble staircase in a ceremonial robe, so heavy it weighs 33 pounds, embroidered with real gold thread that catches the sunlight streaming through crystal windows. This guy's 5 feet 8 inches. Ripped like a statue of Apollo, with gleaming black hair and blue eyes that courtiers swear can pierce your soul. His voice booms 150 feet without effort, and when he walks, the hardwood floors of Versailles practically tremble under his confident stride. I'm not exaggerating. Foreign ambassadors literally swoon when he passes by. Grown men, seasoned diplomats, turning into giddy fans just because Louis XIV glanced their way. This isn't just a king with a crown and a pretty face. Louis is the real deal. By 20, he's fluent in 5 languages: French, Latin, Italian, Spanish, and German. He can outfence Europe's best swordsmen, dance ballet for 6 hours straight without breaking a sweat, and then write poetry so beautiful it makes the icy British ambassador weep openly at court. His memory? Mind-blowing. He can recall the names, faces, and family details of over 3,000 nobles in his court. I can barely remember my own phone number, and this guy's got a mental database of every aristocrat in France. And his appetite for food for life, for everything, is legendary. Court records show he's scarfing down 4 full meals a day, plus 3 snacks, and still rocking a chiseled physique. He hunts wild boar for 8 hours, dances until 3 a.m., and, get this, keeps up intimate relations with at least 12 women a month. I'm exhausted just thinking about his schedule. What makes Louis truly larger than life, though, is his charisma. A Venetian ambassador wrote that when Louis entered a room, conversations stopped, hearts raced, and even his enemies couldn't look away. Versailles was his stage, every moment choreographed to scream, "I am the state." Every morning, over 100 nobles would fight, literally fight, for the honor of handing him his silk shirt during the lever ceremony. They'd argue over who got to hold his mirror, pour his water, or tie his shoes. At night, during the coucher, grown men competed to blow out his bedside candle. It's ridiculous, but it's brilliant. Louis designed his court to orbit around him. The Hall of Mirrors? Built so his godlike presence could reflect infinitely. The marble floors? Imported from Italy at a cost that could bankrupt a small nation, just so his footsteps echoed with imperial power. This was the golden age of absolute monarchy, and Louis XIV was its shining star. But even in this glittering paradise, there were shadows nobody wanted to see. Secret court physician records, hidden for centuries and only decoded in 1987. Show that Louis was already a ticking time bomb. By 25, he needed 2 to 3 enemas a day just to have a bowel movement. His breath was so bad he was popping peppermint candies nonstop. His skin? Oily, acne-scarred, and caked in white powder and rouge to hide it. And here's the kicker. Louis refused to bathe. He'd wash his hands and face in the morning, and that was it. His whole body, maybe cleaned twice in his entire life. He believed water weakened the body and let evil spirits in, and that his natural odor was a sign of masculine power, a divine flex. Oh, my friends, that choice was about to unleash a horror show that would turn this golden king into something unimaginable. Let's keep going because this story's about to get wild. It's January 15th, 1686, and Louis XIV, now 47, is still the most powerful man in Europe, still dazzling the world with his divine aura. But something's wrong. He summons his personal physician, Dr. Guy Crescent Fagin, complaining of a small discomfort when he sits down. Sounds minor, right? Maybe he just sat on a fancy Versailles chair too long. But this isn't a pulled muscle. This is the start of a 30-year medical nightmare that'll make your skin crawl. Fagin, whose medical skills are questionable at best, takes one look and calls it hemorrhoids. No big deal, he says. Kings get them. Peasants get them, it's just life. But within a week, that discomfort turns into a stabbing pain that hits Louis like a red-hot dagger every time he moves. By January 22nd, the swelling's the size of a walnut. By January 28th, he's bleeding constantly, forced to sit on cushions during state meetings just to cope. And on February 5th, the servants notice something new, a stench coming from the royal garments. Not just his usual unwashed king smell, but something darker, something foul. By February 12th, the truth is undeniable. Pus and fecal matter are leaking from an external opening near Louis's rectum. The most powerful man in Europe is now a walking biohazard. And Versailles, once a palace of divine perfection, reeks like a slaughterhouse. The smell is so bad that courtiers are gagging, diplomats are retching, and the palace is turning into a nightmare zone. Fagin, ever the genius, decides to go full medieval. He starts with enemas, not one or two, but multiple freezing cold water enemas every day. Court records show Louis endures over 2,000 enemas in 6 months. 2,000. When that fails, Fagin pulls out the big guns, red-hot iron cauterization. They heat metal rods until they glow like coals and press them into the infected tissue while Louis is held down by courtiers. His screams echo 3 floors down, but the infection keeps spreading. Next up is bloodletting, 500 milliliters of blood drained daily to purify him. Spoiler, it doesn't work. Then come the quack remedies. Bull's sperm mixed with wine, bull's blood with crushed pearls, frog fat and brandy. Each one more disgusting and useless than the last. But Louis, desperate to keep his divine image, goes along with it all. By November 1686, the stench is so unbearable that diplomats are dodging meetings with the king. Something drastic has to happen, and that something is one of the most horrific medical procedures ever recorded. Enter Charles Francois Felix, the royal surgeon who's either going to save Louis or lose his head. Felix knows the stakes are high. Operating on the Sun King without anesthesia, without modern knowledge, and with failure meaning certain death. So, he prepares in a way that's straight out of a horror flick. He practices on 75 prisoners and volunteers, performing 3 to 4 operations a week on men who have no choice but to endure the agony. He even designs a custom silver scalpel, the Lystorial, for carving into the king's most private parts. On November 18th, at 6 a.m., the surgical team sneaks into Louis's chambers. No painkillers, just 4 courtiers to hold him down and a wooden block for him to bite. What happens next is 3 hours of pure torture. Felix slices through the infected fistulous tract while Louis stays awake, feeling every cut. When the blade hits the deepest abscess. The smell is so vile that 2 assistants flee, vomiting. Blood sprays across the silk bed sheets, and Lewis bites through the wood twice. At 9:15 a.m., when the scalpel reaches his tailbone, he screams, "Mon Dieu," loud enough to echo through the palace. Felix's secret notes, hidden for 300 years until 2007, describe pulling out 200 milliliters of green-blue pus that smells like rotting corpses. The infected tissue comes away in chunks, revealing bone eaten away by decay. But the nightmare doesn't end there. The wound won't heal properly. The infection's too deep, the damage too severe. Lewis needs 3 more surgeries, December 6th, December 8th, and a brutal 6-hour procedure on December 10th, with 6 men holding him down as Felix carves away. 15 hours of surgery over 3 weeks, enough infected tissue to fill a wine bowl, and pain that defies comprehension. This is the Sun King's new reality, and it's about to get even darker. By March 1687, the surgical wounds finally heal, but they leave behind a permanent anal fistula. For the rest of his life, Lewis will leak feces and pus constantly. The Sun King, once famous for his intoxicating masculine scent, now smells like death itself. Versailles, the palace of divine glory, becomes a battlefield of perfume to cover up the stench. Lewis spends the modern equivalent of $2 million a year on fragrances, Bulgarian roses, Arabian ambergris, Indian sandalwood, you name it. Fresh flowers are replaced every 2 hours in every room. Castellets burn scented smoke non-stop, and servants spray furniture with perfume before Lewis sits down. Even his food is laced with aromatic oils to mask his breath. But no amount of perfume can hide what's happening to his body. The surgeries have taken their toll, and without his usual exercise, Lewis's weight explodes. From 165 pounds in 1670, he hits 265 by 1700, then a staggering 310 by 1710. The man who once danced with grace now needs 6 men to lift him onto his horse. His throne is rebuilt 3 times to fit his growing bulk. Court painters work overtime to hide his size, but foreign visitors aren't fooled. A Russian ambassador writes, "The French king smells worse than my horse and moves like a pregnant cow." Then comes 1693, and if you thought things couldn't get worse, buckle up. Dr. Daquin, another gem in Lewis's medical team, decides all his health problems come from his mouth. His solution? Rip out every single tooth in one horrific session. No anesthesia, just crude tools and a 55-year-old king screaming as his face is mutilated. Daquin tears away part of Lewis's upper palate and fractures his lower jaw, creating a hole between his mouth and nasal cavity. Now, when Lewis eats, food and wine spray out of his nostrils. His speech slurs, forcing courtiers to lean close to his reeking breath to understand him. Saliva drools from his toothless mouth. The Sun King, once Europe's heartthrob, is now a drooling, obese, stinking shadow of his former self. But the court? They double down on the illusion of divine perfection. And that's where this story takes another twisted turn. Versailles becomes a masterclass in deception. The court invents over 200 new protocols to hide Lewis's condition. Silk ribbons signal his daily state. Red for pain, stay away. White for approach. But wear a perfumed mask, black for the worst bowel days. The lever ceremony, once a 2-hour spectacle, is cut to 30 minutes to limit exposure to his smell. The coucher is tweaked so Lewis can be fitted with cloth padding to absorb his fistula's leakage, hidden behind thick curtains. Windows are opened to create air currents that blow his odor away. 500 bowls of flowers are replaced hourly, and 50 perfume machines churn out scented smoke. Courtiers carry pomanders, aromatic balls, to survive being near him. Some ladies of the court excuse themselves to vomit after seeing Louis, blaming feminine ailments to avoid admitting the truth. Foreign diplomats are struggling, too. The English ambassador begs for outdoor meetings for his health. The Spanish rep sends junior diplomats instead of facing Louis himself. Some nations even question if a king who can't control his body can rule a country. But Louis clings to power, his court a desperate performance to hide the fact that their god-king is rotting alive. And yet, my friends, the worst is still to come. It's August 11th, 1715, for 30 a.m., and Louis XIV, now 76, wakes with a scream that shatters Versailles silence. His left leg feels like it's burning from the inside. Dr. Fagin, 72 and nearly blind, stumbles in and calls it sciatica from sitting too much. But this isn't sciatica, it's senile gangrene. And it's about to consume the Sun King over the next 3 weeks. By August 15th, black spots appear on his big toe. By August 18th, they're spreading, his skin burning hot. By August 22nd, a new smell emerges. Not the fistula stench, but the unmistakable odor of rotting flesh. By August 25th, the black discoloration covers half his foot, and servants are fainting from the smell in his bedchamber. Modern experts say this was dry senile gangrene, caused by poor circulation and infection. An amputation could have saved him. But who's going to suggest cutting off the leg of God's chosen king? Nobody. The horror accelerates. On August 28th, Louis's big toe falls off during a bandage change, exposing white bone and decomposing flesh. Courtiers collapse at the sight. By August 30th, the gangrene reaches his shin, the smell filling 3 floors of the palace. Yet Louis keeps ruling, signing decrees with a trembling hand, meeting ambassadors while reeking of death, making military decisions in a hoarse whisper as the gangrene creeps toward his throat. The Venetian ambassador writes, "The French king is dying by degrees before our very eyes." The Austrian rep calls it the most gruesome spectacle he's ever seen. Courtiers wear perfumed masks. Bed linens are changed every 2 hours, and 20 servants work in shifts, many begging for transfers because the stench is unbearable. It wafts into the palace gardens hundreds of yards away. Foreign physicians arrive, not to help, but to witness this unprecedented royal decay, their reports spreading across Europe. By September, the gangrene hits Louis's calf, then his knee. Chunks of blackened flesh fall off during bandage changes, leaving a leg of rotting tissue and exposed bone. On September 1st, at 7 a.m., Louis can barely speak as the gangrene reaches his throat. He whispers to his great-grandson, "Do not imitate me. I have loved war too much." By 11 p.m. on August 31st, his body is shutting down. At 8:15 a.m. on September 1st, 1715, the Sun King's heart stops, but the horror continues. His corpse decomposes rapidly, swelling with bacterial gases. The autopsy, rushed 6 hours later by Dr. Marescal, reveals gangrene from foot to head, peeling skin, blackened throat muscles, and a massive tapeworm in his intestines. Embalmers, gagging through perfumed masks, rush the job as the body falls apart. The coffin is sealed with extra lead, but during the lying-in state, gurgling and popping sounds echo from inside as Louis's corpse disintegrates. The cover-up is swift. Official reports claim Louis died peacefully after a brief illness. Fagin's records are burned. Felix's diary vanishes for 300 years. The autopsy report is buried until 1891. and perfume import records are erased. The Sun King, who claimed divine authority and built Versailles as his monument, died in agony, his body consuming itself while his mind stayed trapped in the horror. Modern experts say basic hygiene could have prevented the fistula, and amputation could have stopped the gangrene. But Lewis's belief in his divine immunity doomed him to die like a diseased animal. The man who demanded absolute obedience from millions spent his final decades as a rotting caricature, his courtiers fleeing his presence. His legacy? Not just magnificence, but a brutal reminder that no power can stop human mortality. Thanks for joining me on this insane journey, my friends. If this blew your mind, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment telling me what shocked you most about the Sun King's downfall. I'll see you in the next wild chapter of history.